So we've got 0.58% as a decimal. Again, I look at that and my mind really wants to jump to 58%. Uh, but since it already has the percent sign with it, if I wanted to change, if I wanted to write like 60% as a decimal, that would be one, two, that would be zero point 0.6. So since it has this percent sign with it, I still have to move. I got to trust the process and I still have to move that two places to the left. So that is as a decimal is 0.0058. Um, again, my mind wanted to jump to 58%, but you got to trust that you just move two places to the left there. Two as a percent. Again, if I wanted to write,
What's the reasoning as to why you move it over to?
because it's out of 100. Good question. So, um, like if you in the calculator did 0.58 divided by 100, you would get that same concept. Um, like I'm having a hard time just like writing it down, but like 60% is equal to 60 out of 100, which gives you that point 0.6. So 0.58% is 0.58 out of 100. So when you divide it, you get those extra two zeros on the front. Does that kind of help seeing it maybe like one where there isn't a decimal making it small and one where there is a decimal making it small? Or if you did something like 237%, that's the percent over 100. And when you divide those, you would get 2.37. Feel free to interrupt me if you're still stuck or not. Um, so if I have to write 2 as a percentage, to get it into the decimal, I had to move it two places to the right. To get it into a percentage, I got to move it two places to the right, giving me 200%. Um, another way to do it is you can just multiply by 100. We could have just done 2 times 100 to be 200. But again, going from percent to decimal, you want to divide by 100. Going from um, a number to a percentage, you want to multiply by 100. So hopefully we can do okay with the um, knowing when to divide, when to multiply. So um, number 11 says have 40% as a fraction in simplest form. So if I start with 40%, that's currently not a fraction. Again, that's the same thing as 40 over 100, which would be 0.4. But the question is asking the fraction in simplest form. So I want to take that 4 out of 10, 40 over 100, sorry. And this is where that cross canceling concept comes in. You don't necessarily need to show the division here. Like I'll show it on this first one. If you divide the 2 on top, you would get 20 over 50. And then from there, if I divided by 10, I would get 2 and 5. And it looks like that is enough to get me down there because 2 and 5 are both prime numbers. 2 can't divide 5, so I would be done with 2/5 right there. Um, last one for this specific section. So it wants me to just do 3 divided by 49. which is going to be a nasty decimal. 0.06. Says write an answer to the nearest 1/10 of a percent. Oh, painful. So I'm just going to write a bunch of these decimal places. I'll stop right there. So that is a decimal. So to turn that into percent, okay, so we're looking at number 10, multiplying by 100. To give you 6.1224%. So now it wants the nearest 1/10 of a percent. So then that's gonna eventually become 6.1%. The temptation probably for a lot of people was to round to make that 0.1. But then when you multiply by 100, you would get 10, which would not be the right answer. So when it says 1/10 of a percent, you had to convert it to a percentage first and then round it. Hopefully that's making a little bit of sense.